Hey guys, Eerie is here and welcome along to another video. We have some new dailies this week, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you this. How I got on in the most dangerous race, in my opinion, on Gran Turismo 7. And this is for many reasons, all of which we'll get two examples of in this video. But the first one is going to be this, the grid start. Now this is more dangerous than usual because normally we have the rolling starts where the cars are quite a far distance apart, as is well documented, but on the grid you can see everybody is bunched up immediately and contact is pretty much guaranteed coming into the first corner. And we're going to see here, as I bounce off the rev limiter there, everybody is nice and close. There's a bit of contact up ahead, and with the penalty system the way it is, there's going to be some penalties. Look at third here, he gives himself a penalty and then just rams second off. He then also, after ramming second off, then quits. So not ideal for either party. His race is ruined, the driver he's rammed, their race is ruined, but we're the beneficiaries here. We've gone up from 6th up to 4th. And now is probably a good time to introduce the race. So as you've seen earlier on in the video, this is Daily Race C for this week. We're here at Autopolis, Japanese track in the Super Formula cars. And if you don't know what Super Formula cars are, they are the premier open-wheeled series in Japan. Some real notable drivers have come from there, and at the moment actually John Alesi's son races in the Super Formula. So quite a serious series and very big in Japan. This is going to be a straight sprint here over 12 laps. The fuel multiplier is 1 and the tyre multiplier is 1. So you just got to go for it, trying to stay out of trouble, which is easier said than done. As I've mentioned in the title, this is the most dangerous race, in my opinion, in the game right now. And it's a stark contrast to a couple of weeks ago. We had a race where there was a curb glitch, where essentially you could get your car onto the curbs and it would stick to them. It's called curb riding, curb railing. There's lots of different things for it, and there's lots of varying opinions on it, which we're not going to get into now. But essentially, curbs were your friend. But in these cars, at Autopolis, curbs are most certainly not your friend. You want to stay away from them at all costs. Because if you get onto them, unlike a couple of weeks ago, you are going to get thrown off. And we're going to come to the section here, which is probably the most dangerous part of the track. You're going to come through the left-hander here, you're not going to brake, you're going to chuck it in, hopefully the car doesn't slide, and hopefully, like we saw in the background there, your car doesn't spin out. And if we have a look at the replay here, you're going to see exactly what happens. He just gets up onto the curb there, runs a little bit wide, and round he goes. And if you saw the eagle-eyed amongst you, will see that the car behind had exactly the same issue. Up onto the curb, and round you go. He didn't do a full 360. He managed to save it, but the exact same thing happens. So yes, the curbs here are quite difficult, and it's another reason, along with grid starts, why this race is so dangerous. So after an action-packed couple of first laps here, hopefully things are going to start to quieten down as we start lap number 3. Just to have a bit of a sit rep, we are just over 5 seconds behind the leader. We're sitting here in 4th, 1.4-ish seconds behind 3rd, and we've got a gap to around 3.5 seconds to the car behind. Well, that is all about to change because the car behind is going to have some sort of issue. I'm not sure what happens, I didn't catch it, but not only Tavasic, but also Breeze is going to come through. So the two cars who had an issue last time out, who we covered, are now free to come and get us. Two very, very quick drivers, and the priority now is going to be to keep this thing in a straight line, try and not make any mistakes or get caught out by any of the issues that we've covered so far in this one, to keep these drivers behind us. And the size of this task becomes apparent as we cross the line, and we've lost 0.8 of a second just in that half lap alone. And by the time we get to lap 6, the gap has come down by a further 1.8 seconds and is now under a second. But when he gets to within a second, the next issue with this track, and the next issue that makes it the most dangerous race in the game, in my opinion, comes into play, and that is dirty air. So what dirty air is where effectively you cannot get close to the car ahead because the wake or the disturbance of air coming off the car in front messes with your aerodynamics. So that's going to stop you from turning properly, which means you have to brake earlier, which means you're going to run wide. It basically ruins the handling of your car because the air in front is no longer stable. So what this is going to do is going to allow Zavicic to come right behind us. He's going to get to around a second, as you've seen, all the way down from 3.8 seconds. But then he's going to get stopped in his tracks. He cannot get close because of the dirty air coming off the back of the car. And that, combined with the fact we've been robbed of the overtake button, which was, for those that don't know again, a button that you could press sort of like nitrous in Fast and the Furious. Basically, it's a button you press that gives you extra power that should have the same effect as the DRS in Formula 1. It allows you with the extra power to get alongside and hopefully overtake the car in front. But that is absent here, and that alongside with the dirty air means people are going to have to do some pretty drastic and aggressive things to get past one another. So fast forwarding a couple of laps here, we're coming out of the final corner to complete lap number 9 and move on to lap number 10. Things have stayed pretty much status quo, as you can see behind there, thanks to said dirty air that we've discussed before. I can't get near third, and fifth can't get near us. So things were set to stay exactly this way for the remainder of the race. But I mentioned earlier that the tyre wear multipliers were low. But if you combine that with dirty air, then you can have issues. And I'm going to show you exactly what issues here. As coming out of the tight right hand hairpin here, I'm going to stick it straight into the barrier and shamefully have to reverse back onto the circuit to get going. We've got front left damage, as you can see here, and Zavicic has come through. So we've lost 5th place. Not ideal at all. Things were looking really quite good at this point. But as with being the most dangerous race in Gran Turismo 7, I got bitten. So we've just got to try and recover here. We've got to wait for the damage to disappear, which has now disappeared thankfully. But before we have a chance to settle in, the yellows are back out because the car that was in third has had an issue. And we are going to be right behind him. I said earlier that we'd lost 5th when actually we hadn't. But then we definitely lost 5th as I get distracted and stick it in the wall once more. Following a driver off once they've crashed, all very embarrassing. So let's have a look here at the replay at what happened to the Brit in third. He gets some snap oversteer, manages to almost correct it, but he finds himself on the grass and on the way towards barrier. So we now find ourselves, as we slither our way back up to speed, going from a potential third place, had we kept it on the track and overtake the fellow Brit there, to being down in 8th. It's amazing, you know, how quickly these things can happen and how everything can go wrong. So we're carrying some damage here as we come across the line to start lap number 11. 2 more laps now. We've got a couple of cars up in front, as you can see here, and we're going to see, make that 3 actually, and we're going to see what we can do about getting some positions and salvaging some sort of good result here. And despite covering the grid start as a risk, the curbs as a risk, dirty air as a risk, the overtake button or lack thereof as a risk, and the tyre wear as a risk, there are still a couple more things that can get you in this race. The first one being that this car doesn't have any brake lights. Now, it doesn't need too much of a description to know what the outcome will be if you don't know when the car in front is braking. Brake lights are there to warn you of cars in front braking, and if you don't have that, like we don't have in these ones, then issues arise. And speaking of issues arising, we almost have one there, and Breeze has had a massive one himself once again. So we're going to take 7th place here, but let's have a look at exactly what has happened. Although I think by now we all know what would have happened here. He's going to come through the right-hander, get a bit of a slide on, does really well to hold it, but doesn't quite manage to do enough, and into the Armco he goes. So 7th is acquired, but we've got our eyes on the 2 up in front. 5th, which is currently held by the German, and 6th, which is currently held by the Swiss. They're less than a second up in front. We're going to have the issue with dirty air, but we're going to try anyway to see if we can get up and amongst it as we cross the line to start the final lap. And we've been talking about issues and reasons why this race is the most dangerous throughout this race, but there's still time, despite it being the last lap, to cover one more point, and that is something called the collision box. So the collision box is essentially the area around the car. So it's an open wheel car. The yellows are up ahead here, but we didn't really see what went on. It hasn't really affected our position, so no problem. But the collision box is essentially what the game thinks are the dimensions of the car. Normal cars, GT3 cars, are just a box, but open wheel cars aren't, and I think they've got this a little bit wrong. So I think the collision box is just a little bit too big, and you can't get quite as close as you'd hope. And you think you won't touch, and cars touch each other through the magic force field, and cars actually touch each other a little bit earlier than you would expect. The game thinks they're a little bit bigger than the graphics actually show you they are. And that, combined with our good old friend the penalty system, causes the issue that we've seen up in front. There's a 3-second penalty to the Swiss driver there, and all we need to do now is stay behind, stay within 3 seconds, and we will get ourselves 6th place, which we managed to do here. We're going to come out of the final corner, we're within 3 seconds, the penalty is applied, the Swiss goes down to 8th, we go up to 6th, and thankfully this one is over. And so is the video. That is going to be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do hit that like button. Let me know what you thought of this one in the comment section down below, and be sure to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. But for now, guys, take care, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.